Hello, everyone. Welcome to follow Dan with me. Hello, Dan.
How are we doing? Right?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad at all. It's been a while.
I know you've been waiting to come on the show, but to be honest with you, I've been struggling to think of topics to talk about. So I hope you've got a long list of things that you want to talk about today, Dan.
We haven't spoken for a while, have we? So there's going to be a few things. It's still a weird one, isn't it, with the World Cup and going back into the season soon because the World Cup seems to be coming to an end now. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I'm sure you've got an order of what you're going to want to talk about, and I'll give it you back.
I wish you had. I think this is more of a candid show tonight. I'm asked in the comments now what people want to talk about tonight on this show. Dan, I will start you off though. Have you missed Everton, or have you? Apparently, Dan, your volume is quite low.
Is it? Has it gone up now? No. It's probably just being low, mate. I tried it the other day and it was low.
Can anyone hear Dan?
I'm going to have to do it on better. Just normal.
Yeah. Is there a way you can turn it up on the headset? It might be something to experiment with when we've got more time.
Yeah, it's different headphones, isn't it? Me headphones was broke. It's just it will get there. Sorry about this.
Okay. Well, stay as we are for now. We'll look at that another time, Dan.
Sound any better?
No. It's quiet. Needs turning up the volume. Apologies for this, guys. We'll get there.
There we go. No headphones.
Okay. Your hair's growing back anyway.
Oh, look at that.
Starting to look a little bit like Ragnar Lothbrok. We'll address the headphone issue at another time, Dan, if that's okay. So I'd like to ask you first and foremost: have you missed Everton?
Well, not really. No, I've enjoyed watching the World Cup football of watching a team that's full of good players. Do you know where we haven't had a good striker, we haven't had good attacking wingers, and then you watch England and they've got like Saka one side, Foden the other side, then they've got Grealish, then they've got frigging Rashford, then they've got Harry Kane up front, and I'm thinking about Everton and thinking, I wish we had that. Like, I wish we had that sort of attacking force. It's been good because the few of the Everton players played. Onana played, didn't he? And
come to that. Let's not dive in all at once. But
yeah,
you missed Everton. Not at all. You've not missed Everton. You've not missed Everton at all.
No. Well, I'm looking forward to the fresh start. Let's just say that.
I think what you're saying really is that it's been a breath of fresh air to not have to feel the agony and the stress of watching Everton, because there isn't anything particularly enjoyable about watching Everton and maybe watching some of the World Cup games, which have been generally very entertaining and competitive with a few surprises in there. There's been a nice change of thought. Obviously, we're back in action on Boxing Day against Wolverhampton at home. Sorry. And hopefully the players are training hard. Ben Godfrey back from injury. He's been playing with the under-23s, and Andros Townsend isn't far away as well. But trying to get Calvert-Lewin fit as well for that Wolves game. And although it's 19 days away, there's a lot of preparation that can be done. I think that there should be a lot of work behind the scenes being done to bring in players as well, hopefully ready to come in around the first week of Jan. Dan, in watching the World Cup, there's quite a few teams there. Japan, South Korea, Ghana, Cameroon. In general, that the players are not maybe elite players, not playing in necessarily the top leagues, even a lot of them. There's players out there that Everton could be looking at, surely. Even in the Morocco side, for example. I look at these teams and think, we'd probably lose to all these international teams, and normally the club teams would beat the international teams, you'd think. Not that that's ever happened, but there's definitely players out there that Everton should be looking for. In that Japan team, for example, there's quite a few there that I would snap your hand off for. You mentioned their forwards.
I think we've got to start looking outside of the Premier League. I think that's what we've got to do. We seem to not go all around the world looking for players. And you look at that Portugal under 21-year-old yesterday, got a hat trick for Portugal, took Ronaldo's place.
Years ago.
Striker. What I'd do for someone like him, he looks strong, fast, and everything. And my point is, you talk about Calvert-Lewin. I think he's going to be a bonus. You can't rely on him. We need to buy a striker now. I said this the other day. We need to go out. Do you know when we brought Lukaku, and we went big money and we went to get a striker because it isn't the most important position if you want to win a game. I feel we've got to go out now. Look, I don't know what the financial situation is. I'm sure 27 are trying to find out. But I think we need to go in and buy a striker. I really do. I think we've got to go all out. I don't want to just buy a striker that's cheap, Ryan. I think we've got to go all out on a striker.
Certain. I really hope they're doing that. Dan, obviously, you touched on you don't miss Everton, but we hope that they will be back in good form and they are working on players. And we've said there are players out there for them to sign, potentially not just at the World Cup, but players who haven't gone the World Cup. There's plenty out there. We proved it for me. That we're probably a little bit narrow-minded when it comes to transfers. I will ask you about England. I am going to ask you about Everton players at the World Cup. And that will be the agenda today. It's not going to be a long video. It's just a quick catch up, see how you're doing, see how everyone is, because we know there's been a bit of an absence, but we don't want to witter on for too long about, there isn't an awful lot to talk about. One thing there is to talk about, Paul the Esk, who's part of the 27 campaign, there was an open letter from the 27 campaign to Farhad Moshiri, who also has come under criticism himself. But they wrote to him saying that Bill Kenwright should be removed with immediate effect. That's what they want. I'm assuming you've had a look at that open letter.
I did have a read. I did. Obviously, it's the main topic today, isn't it? It's gone bigger than what I thought it would, to be fair. It seems to be everywhere, and all the big Twitter accounts have been publishing it. So it's definitely got seen. I'm sure Moshiri would have seen it. What's your thoughts on it, Ryan? What do you think after reading it?
Well, I think it's a really difficult one without being... I like to sit maybe on the fence as kind of host of this show. But I think they're entitled to have their opinion, really, of what they want to happen and what they demand. I mean, some of the points are quite fair here. I'm just refreshing my mind over it, talking about providing no information on club finances whatsoever, which is a reasonable request for shareholders and fans to expect. Well, it is a private company, so it's their prerogative whether they do that or not. But I agree that we should have some inkling on what's going on with that. Certainly the shareholders as well. Talking about, is the club for sale? Because there's been a lot of links with the American owners potentially coming in. Is the club for sale? Are they looking for investment? What is the plan with that? It actually says here, what is your intention? What have you been doing? And when will you communicate it clearly? It's quite interesting. Leadership as well is one of the categories in the letter, talking about 7 years since you acquired your initial shareholding. There's nothing in the club's governance, commercial, financial, or indeed footballing performance that suggests they warrant continued employment. That's in regards to retaining Bill Kenwright and Barrett Baxendale, saying that they've had huge losses, squandered resources, and our competitive position has declined on an annual basis. And that's quite an important thing there, actually, that ultimately, regardless of whoever is in charge, performance on the pitch and off the pitch is derisory. Season ticket prices are going up. Yes, the stadium is being built, which is fantastic. So I kind of, although these things are weighing me down, that they're talking about the stadium being actually built and actually fulfilling that, which no one's been able to do before, I do give them credit for that. So it's a difficult one, Dan. But ultimately, I'd rather we were in a shit stadium and actually playing well and winning things rather than in this fancy stadium with a diabolical football team where we've got to pay through the nose to go and watch. He also talks about change. In the short term, survival is key in the Premier League. But is this the limit of our ambitions in years? We have to see change. And surely as the majority shareholder, you're the one who can bring change. You've made a financial commitment. You must recognise change is necessary. So it seems like really a lot of that is about you're not communicating about the finances. You're not communicating about what's happening with the club. Is it for sale? And also, are you going to get rid of the people who are supposedly running the club and the business side of it and the footballing side of it, who've been here for a long period of time? So what do you make of all that, Dan? I mean, there's no mention of Kevin Thelwell as well. I don't think particularly in this. He's got to obviously be given time. It wasn't particularly anything ingenious. It's not really the right word, but again, he was responsible for overseeing football operations, and we didn't bring in a decent striker in the summer. I suppose I'm going a little bit off topic, really, but what do you make of that letter then? Do you agree with it? Do you think it's the right thing to do? Do you think it should be made public? Do you think?
I think parts of it I agree with. I think some parts, like when you say, I think they want to know too much things sometimes, where they say they want to know all the financial situation. It's never going to happen, and our club's not going to put that on show to other clubs to show whether we're in a good or bad situation. They've got to cover it up. But I do feel going into this new stadium, Ryan, I don't want to be going into this new stadium with baggage or the same sort of thing that we've had for years. And I think Kenwright on the board and Denise have been failing for years, and I don't see why we should keep changing manager and not changing them. I think we've not got long now till this new stadium's done, and you're going to be all excited about it, but you're going to be going into it with Kenwright and Denise, people that have kind of took us down. They've pulled us down and not let us. Because an example is, and I don't like to talk about them that much, other teams, but Newcastle have had a complete clear out. They've changed everything. They've changed the board. The owners have come in and changed everything. And I think when this new stadium happens, Ryan, I think that's what we've got to do as well. We've got to fresh start everything, because I do think the new stadium is a fresh start for us. The financial situation will change because the stadium is going to bring in a lot more money, and things will get better from that. And me and you spoke about it, Ryan. We've said we just need to kind of be mid-table, get into that new stadium, and then that's when we expect change. Well, that's for me. That's when I expect change. I don't know what you think.
Well, I thought the idea this season is safety in a comfortable way, playing decent football. I'd argue, we're not meeting any of those objectives at the moment. Yes, we're like 17th or something. The football's not very good. And so, and we are in a relegation battle. So even that as a target is a low target. And I think at this stage, for me, I'm kind of being worn down with it over years of just kind of getting your hopes up and feeling like deflated about it. And really what I want to happen is just safe passage into the Bramley Moore Stadium and then rebuild from there. Have a Premier League team to get into there and actually invest, because the fans deserve better home and away. We've been subject to some terrible times over recent years. I'm talking about 27 years. It's going to be 30 years or something before we win a trophy. I can't see us beating Man United. It is depressing.
I think the word that you just said there, though, invest. And I don't think we're going to be able to invest until we get into this new stadium.
But this is exactly what he's saying, Dan, about, what's going on with the finances. Because I'm thinking now, hang on a minute. We've got rid of all the big earners off the books. The only massive earners on the books now are James Tarkowski, who's just been brought in, and Yerry Mina. We've got rid of Alan, Andre Gomez, Gabamin, Tosin. We've stripped everyone out of the club. So the wage bill's down, the commercial deals are up, the TV deals increased, season tickets have gone up, and yet there's been very little investment. Actually, we sold Richarlison, who, by the way, starts for Brazil in the World Cup, scores one of the best goals in World Cup history. Can't even ironically get in the Spurs team, but we sold him for 10 million more than we paid for him. Really winds me up, but that money was just reinvested in not in another like-for-like replacement, but in around the squad. So there hasn't been an awful lot of investment. Yeah, we've signed players like Onana, but I look at him and I'm not quite sure what he is. I watched him for Belgium and I wasn't quite sure what type of player he was. Are you a holding player, but you don't have the fitness and the legs to kind of cover the pitch. He's got a long way to go and develop, a lot to add to his game. Fantastic tackler, but he's got a lot to add to his game. But the reality is we don't have a lot of time to wait for these players to develop. We have to have investment now. We have to have players proven now. And I think what they're calling for here, I'm not going to make a judgment on whether I agree or whether I don't agree, because I want him to remain impartial running the channel and let you all guys have your own opinion, and you as a pundit, Dan. But they've got a right to ask for these things. They've got a right to demand it. I understand about the finances. Maybe they don't want other clubs to know Everton are skint, blah, de, blah. So, we can lowball them on offers for players. We haven't got anyone worth selling. And if we're skint and we go in to look for players, why doesn't that work in our advantage? Because they know we're not rich and we're not going to be able to put stupid offers in for players. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a football finance expert or in any way best placed to comment on these things. But I did find it fascinating. And they will probably have to rename it 28 years or 29 years, or they might as well skip to 40 years at the moment because of what's been going on with the club and no real sign of progress.
Yeah, I agree. It's just a not know. When you just said now, I don't know, and we don't know what's happening. I think our team's at that point now where we're stable around the midfield and the defence, but we need to add some big players now with these young kids to get them going, get them ticking.
But this is a wide problem. I think Jeff's just popping on. This is a wider sort of issue more than just maybe talking about a squad as it is now in terms of, okay, we need a striker. This is talking about the way the club's being run, whether it be managed, the chairman, the CEO, the commercial deals element, the fact season tickets are going up. Are we getting the best out of our commercial deals rather than having to penalise the fans who are already watching a really poor standard of football with no investment? So Jeff actually is probably the best placed on the channel. Mabsy also is good at this sort of thing, but Mabsy is not available. So hi Jeff, can you shed light on the whole 27 campaign letter? What are your thoughts on the letter? Do you agree with the letter? Do you agree with what they're asking? Just give us your overarching comments, please. We're more tactical.
God, this is
rather than
then thrown right into the deep end here. My honest answer is I have no idea what they're doing, because I've said this before. I'll say it again. They're not changing anything. They're not changing anything. Nobody's listening. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter what they do. They can write silly letters. They can howl at the moon for all they bloody like. Kenwright's going nowhere. Moshiri's going nowhere. The board's going nowhere. Nothing's going to change. You can do whatever you want. All you're just doing is stirring up more grief at a time when the club doesn't need it, to no real good purpose. Because yes, I would love the board to be changed. I would love the club to be better run. Yeah, I would love everything to be rosy in the garden of Everton land. But writing a letter and moaning on Twitter, it isn't doing anything. It's doing nothing. Are the Glazers still running Man United? I mean, they invaded the pitch and got a game cancelled. And are they still the owners of Man United? Yeah, they are. So,
it's a good point, that, Jeff. And also, I just wonder, kind of, with Moshiri in particular, a lot of rich billionaire people, generally, you don't need more money. You're not doing this because you need more money. You're a billionaire. You've got enough money. You're a millionaire. You've probably got enough money to do whatever you want and live your life and be happy and fulfilled, if that's what makes you happy and fulfilled. But what I would say is, it was a vanity project, in my opinion, for Farhad Moshiri. It was a vanity project for him because he couldn't have his control at Arsenal. He's coming here without really the experience of running a football club.
Every club, and this isn't like shocking news to anybody. If you own a football club, it's a vanity project.
But he doesn't have to.
Every club owner,
in his eyes,
they're not doing it to. I mean, they're generally not doing it to make money. They're generally doing it because it's a vanity project. And quite often, what you'll find is that rich people invest in football clubs because the PR, the connections, and all the rest of it brings in other things and adds to, and it's one of those things where everyone wants a seat at the table and to be part of the game. But generally, football clubs don't make money. Look at the mess. Look at the mess so many clubs are in. If you want to be successful in football, then you're not going to be particularly successful on the pitch, because success on the pitch requires huge finances, huge investment, and generally that takes up all the budget. So you don't tend to make a lot of money in football. Sam Jordan, You know, if you want to become a billionaire, buy a football club, and then you'll become just a
Some
millionaire.
of these clubs do make the big names: Man United, Liverpool, Arsenal, etc., Chelsea, etc., whatever, Man City. Successful clubs,
But they're
make
not
money.
successful.
But Everton aren't successful. Yeah. What I make of this is, like, if it is a vanity project for him, then it's not about making money. Then surely, you know, you want to build that rapport, you want to build that reputation, you want to look successful, so you want to throw your money into it. But I know he can't anyway. But even just that rapport with the fans, you know, listening to the fans and doing those things and talking about the finances or the budget or the ambition or as a club for sale, having that transparency. I don't know whether, I think if you did a poll on Kenwright and Baxendale, would you want them in or out? I think 75% of fans would probably say get rid of them. That's not my either way or other. I'm not gonna say on here what I think. What I will say is, actually, I'm quite good friends with Jazz Bal, you know, the fan advisory board, and I spoke to him about a few things. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Obviously, it's not fair, but he said it's better to work with people than work against them sometimes. And that's his personal view in terms of how he tries to approach things. I'm not going to go into more of his opinions on that, but
yeah,
you know, they're trying to work with him. I suppose I don't know what kind of level the 27 campaign have in terms of contact with the club. So maybe they don't have any avenues of contact, and that's why it's a letter in this format in public. But what we'll say is, if it is about a project, is it about making money? Or is it about a vanity project? Is it about keeping the fans happy? It doesn't really make a lot.
I think that Moshiri wants to be involved in football. That's clear, right? He was obviously on the board at Arsenal and had no say in the running of the club, and that's what he wanted, and that's why Everton appealed. And that's fair enough. So he wanted to be in football because he loves football. Whether we agree with what he's done or not, he's a football fan. He is a football fan. He's not our kind of football fan, but he does like football. He grew up being an Arsenal fan and watching football. So there's an idea from certain fans that, like, he doesn't care. That's rubbish. There's an idea that the board doesn't care. That's also rubbish. They might not be very good at what they're doing, but that doesn't mean to say they don't care. But I think that if you actually look at Moshiri's tenure since he took over, yeah, you could say he's made mistakes. No doubt about that. No problem at all. But we wanted Martinez gone. We protested. He sacked him and replaced him. We wanted the next guy gone. He sacked him and replaced him. He's literally backed the fans so many times when we've been clamoring for somebody to go. They've gone. Each of the managers he's hired, he's backed financially. He's spent money on players at the behest of previous managers. So he has put his money where his mouth is. And go and look out the window at Bramley Moore Park. There's a stadium. There's a stadium like well on its way to being completed. So he's put his money where his mouth is in that regard as well. So
you have to delegate your roles to the right people. You don't put a production manager as a nurse, and you don't give a doctor the job of sales. So, you know, I mean, that's not.
Yeah, but that's fair comment. Is has he made the right decisions? No, not necessarily.
But
having said that, the one final thing I will say is, if we were 7th in the division now, would anyone be writing a letter? I don't think so. I really don't. I think the fact is that the position that we're in the league, in relative terms, is really bad compared to where we think we should be. In the same way with the Glazers, nobody was complaining when they were second in the league and when they get in the Champions League. But when they drop out the Champions League and they're not like in the hunt for titles, the protests get loud. And it's the same with Everton.
But Jeff,
when we're successful on the pitch, the protests go quiet. So
Jeff, Man United is weird, isn't it? Because the Glazers every summer spend hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, really. They spend like 90 million on individual players, 150 million. And you look at it and they're thinking about it and you're thinking, well, yeah, I suppose maybe they're not buying the right players. And it's a similar thing to us where they need the right people in the right things. Anyway, there's a few people in the comments.
I was just going to say one thing, though, on that. First of all, you can't show your cards. So I think the letter that they've sent, I get certain things with the Kenwright out, whatever. But them to ask to show finances and to show this, that, and the other, you're asking for stuff that's never going to happen. It seems also that they've looked at the league position that we're in and got a bit bored over the World Cup and thought, right, this is a good time to start something again. Now, like I say, completely agree with them on the Kenwright out thing, but it feels like they've asked one question that they should be asking and then asked loads of other things that you're never going to get. To ask everything, to know everything that's going on within Everton is never going to happen. We're never going to get that. That's just asking for miracles, that is. You don't show other teams your cards. What about if they come out and said to us, Ryan, no one wants to buy the club? Then the value is going to go down because no one's interested. If they said, "Oh, we're trying to sell it, but we can't," Moshiri says, "I want to sell, but I can't," then everyone's going to lose. Everyone's going to think, "Right, these can't even sell the club," and then no one's going to come in for it, and everything's going to go wrong.
Yeah,
so you can't do that.
Something that's not for sale is actually more valuable than something that is for sale.
And do you know something else as well? And yeah, I'll probably get shut down for saying this as well, but
go on.
I think the fact that Newcastle are doing well has really got on a lot of fans' goats, because they've come in and done what we were going to do when Moshiri arrived, only we fucking botched the job. And they've done a better job of it because they didn't go out and spend silly money on players. They didn't go and buy players that they didn't need, like 3 number 10s or whatever. They got the right manager. They targeted specific areas of the pitch, and they got the thing right on the pitch, and looked at small progress. And then they brought in the right players in the summer to add to what they'd done and so they did it in the right way. And also, they were in a healthier position to start with anyway, because they.
But this is Jeff. This is where it's Kenwright's fault a little bit. I know Ryan's like.
Oh, I agree. Yeah,
but Kenwright only sold the club to someone that would keep him on the board. He only sold the club to someone that would keep him in the club. That was the deal that Kenwright wanted. He wanted to stay in it so he can make money when we get this new stadium. He's in it for that, but. At the end of the day, if Kenwright didn't do that, we would be like Newcastle. We would have sold the club to Moshiri. Moshiri don't know what he's doing, so we would have got people on the board, like Newcastle have done, to do a good job. Then they would have changed this. Then they would have changed that. So Kenwright, just by keeping himself there, hasn't allowed everything to change like it has at Newcastle. And that's
you're right.
Everyone's frustrated.
And I don't disagree with any of that. I am. I fucking hate Kenwright. I absolutely hate Kenwright, and I don't care. I know I'm not representing. I'm not wearing Everton top, so no one can have a go at me. He should have gone years ago. He's held this club. He's held this club back for years, and I live for the day he's gone. I can't stand the guy. I call him misty-eyed Bill because he lives in like some utopian past of like Boys Pen Billy, and it's just, I can't stand the guy and I can't wait for him to be gone. And my hope is that like someone professional will come in and take over the club, someone who knows what they're doing. So yeah, I definitely want him gone. That's not what I'm saying in terms of I'm not supporting him. I'm not backing the board. I want them all gone. I want the whole lot gone. I want somebody who knows what they're doing to come in and buy the club. But writing a letter ain't going to do that. It just isn't, because Moshiri owns 98% of the club now, I think.
And the letter didn't change anything we already didn't know about that campaign, really. We can't.
Exactly. It doesn't do anything.
I've heard some stories, but I can't really repeat them. But I've heard things about him personally, some good things, but I've also heard negatives as well.
What about Kenwright?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go there on this channel.
No,
but
it's fine.
what I will say is, there is a catch.
You should give out all the saucy, devilly information. You should go there.
Yeah. The catch-22 thing from Moshiri, because when he buys a club, he wants that kind of stability in the transition. But I think 7 years is quite a long time to maybe have had that transition, and it's never been a transition. It's just been a decline, as you said. Getting the right people in ultimately, I just want to see the right people in the right roles in the footballing departments. I don't even know whether that's Kevin Thelwell, because I'm not that enamoured with what he brought in last summer. A lot of them, to be fair, McNeil, Mo, Vinagre. We've not really bought any technical midfielders in, and we've got no one who can score any goals. So annoys me to bits. What I will say, unfortunately, lads, is this was meant to be a 30-minute stream. So my allocation till 7:30 is finished. I'm going to leave. Follow Everton with you two. What I would suggest you touch on, you can talk about this in comments if you're still staying on, that is the England game and the Everton players' performance in the World Cup. Yeah.
I'd much rather talk about the World Cup than Everton at the minute.
Go on.
For an absolute fact. So
yeah,
fine. Are you all right to stay on for a bit, right? Dan?
Yeah, I'll stay on for 15, 20. We've got a few on anyway, haven't we? So we'll top the comments and stuff like that. I know Ryan said half an hour.
31 people will come in after 30 minutes of streaming and talking about everything that I wanted to say. And to be fair to you, I thought that would happen. But I'm going to drop off and leave you with the two brilliant lads. Guys, like and subscribe.
Nice one.
I'll watch the rest back later. Bye.
All right, mate. Catch you later. Hey up, man, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad.
How's life treating you?
Yeah, right. I've been enjoying the World Cup. I was saying to Ryan earlier on, it's nice to see teams with good players in every single position. I said about England, you've got Saka, Grealish, Foden, Rashford. You've got that many options attacking, then you've got Everton where we ain't got no attackers. So it's nice to watch a team that's got everything. I've enjoyed it. I like to see good football. I know you do as well, Jeff, when I've spoken to you. It's just nice to see
think that obviously there was the drama running up to the World Cup, all of the Qatar, they're all evil and all that kind of stuff and whatever. And yeah, you could have a lengthy conversation about that. But like once you put that aside and the tournament started, the first game is a bit ropey, but then Saudi Arabia goes and does Argentina. And like since then it's just been boss, because it's like that just set the whole tournament up for me, because like even though they ended up going out, that was liftoff for the tournament, because it suddenly everyone was excited about this World Cup again, because everyone was a bit down on this World Cup before. It's in the winter, it's in Qatar, all the nonsense, all the other stuff. But then as soon as the World Cup started and Argentina get beat, everyone's like, oh, this is boss. And then we've had like Spain going out on penalties. We've had Belgium getting whooped. We've had South Korea and Japan qualifying, Australia qualifying, and other big teams going out at their expense. I think have been amazing.
I think the big thing is, Jeff, I think a lot of people is trying to like go on strike to not like it, even if they liked it, kind of thing. But it's a lot of players last World Cup, like Messi, Ronaldo, a lot of other players as well. It's possibly the last World Cup. So I think if you're going to make yourself not like it, then it's a bit stupid, really, because if you like football, you want to watch it, really, don't you? So
and then you've got a certain element of Evertonians who are like, I hate England, and I don't whatever.
I asked someone earlier on, Jeff, and I didn't even go into it because I don't understand it, because I don't get why you wouldn't want England to win the World Cup, but if that's what some people are like, then fair enough.
And the thing is, it's one of those where like there was a certain element who you could tell they just wanted England to get beat because it would prove them right, if you know what I mean. Oh yeah, Everton England is shit, or whatever, and it's like, yeah, but they're really not, though, are they?
No, they've got
like
all the players that you are heading in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I was just going to touch on this. We'll hit a few comments. We'll drop your comments and stuff, and we'll talk a little bit about the World Cup and Everton, because we ain't been on for a while, and we'll just have a little nit-nat and just keep our channel updated. But he was talking about Japan, and I can't believe how good there was, Jeff. Like, it frustrates me so much that Japan, they've got so many players that I don't even know, but they can pass the ball around all game, and they connect as a team, and they all just connect. And Everton,
they work their asses off. They work their asses off, and like, I think that it's one of those where you knew eventually that the quality would fall short because, like, effort, energy, teamwork, and all that, it only gets you so far, and then the brick hits the road, where generally the better teams qualify because they're better. They just are, if you know what I mean. So it's like in our game against Senegal, you know, yeah, they had a good go at us, but you knew, like, as soon as we got that first goal, it was over. You knew it was over. We got the second goal by half time, and then it was just a training exercise. The second half, you know, you look at the Portugal game against Switzerland.
What a striker though, Jeff. I tweeted him.
Yeah. So you could just see that the quality is rising to the top, but we've got some of that quality. Like, we've got a team we can actually finally big up ourselves and go, we've got some quality. That lad from Jude Bellingham, oh my God, he's going to be like one of the best midfielders in the world without a shadow of a doubt.
Does it scare you that he's going to be a cop-eye? That he might be a cop-eye? I don't want him to go somewhere. I don't want him to
go there either, no, but it's one of those where, like, I've seen all the hate for Henderson and it's like,
I can't stand him. I can't.
I can't stand him.
He had a good game.
He played really, really well. He makes a difference to this team. And if we bring the trophy home, I'm fine with it. I really am, because I can separate the two things. I can hate Liverpool, but England is England, and it's a separate thing. So I don't care who's putting on that shirt, because when they put that shirt on, they're not representing the club. They're representing me, because I'm an Englishman. They're representing you. They're representing all of us. And so that other stuff goes out the window. And I think, like, I've had criticism of Gareth Southgate. Tactics sometimes a bit negative, and, you know, would he be my choice of manager? No, he wouldn't. But the one thing I will say is he's created a club environment at international level where you used to have cliques where, like, the Liverpool players and the United players and the Southern players, they didn't talk to each other. So when we had international games, they were individuals. They'd all eat separately at dinner time, and they would hang around separately because they didn't like each other. This is a team of players who put that aside, and they all get along, and they all back each other up, even though they play for different club sides. They're all England, and they're all, like, fighting together, and there's no little cliques, there's no little separate, like, I don't like this guy and I don't like this guy. It's all really, really together. And I think that's what Southgate has built over time, is he's created a sort of whole different vibe around the England team that we didn't used to have any, and that kind of them and us mentality as well. Like, they used to hate the press, but all the press stuff has been really good. You know, even the hating Pickford stuff has died down, if you've noticed. Like, he's England's number one, and he gets that respect now from across the board. Now he's getting proper respect. So I just like the fact that we're like a proper England team now, and we've got that team spirit that teams like a Japan have that we didn't used to have, but we've got now. So that gives me a bit of confidence going into this game on Saturday.
You know, there's good players at England, but it's just keeping those players' egos happy. And I think when some of these, I've said Gareth Southgate's shit and he's going to lose England the World Cup, but he proved me wrong last game and he might do it. So when he's brought substitutions on, the subs have come on and played well. So I can't really fault him. He's like Rashford's come on and played well, Foden's come on and played well. So the players ain't coming on and in a strop and not playing well. So the vibes are good. Do you know what, Jeff? Do you think it's coming home or what? It could be. I think we'll beat it.
Okay, I'll tell you a story, right? I'll tell you a story. When the World Cup first got announced as being in Qatar, right, back then, which is 8 years ago, something like that, I said England will win the World Cup in Qatar. And the reason why I said it is because the one thing that's always stopped England from winning a World Cup before, to me, is fitness. Is because we've always gone into tournaments with like knackered players because the Premier League is so hard. It's such a tough competition that English players come out at the end of a Premier League season. They're carrying knocks and niggles. They're tired, and so they get a certain far in the tournament, and then that's it. They're done. They just run out of legs. And I think that this is like the perfect time for us. It's like we've had a nice warm up at the start of the season. But I looked at Harry Kane in that last game. He didn't look like a player who was tired. He looked like a player who was coming into his peak. You know, I look at like these England players now and I'm thinking they look absolutely at the peak of their form, ready to play, you know, and the bench that we've got compared to some of the other teams, like if you can bring on like Rashford and Grealish and players like that, you've got to be a threat. You've got to be a threat, surely. So yeah, why not? I mean, we could all have egg on our face on Sunday night. Fair enough. But
I don't like to say can't really. I don't want to touch because I don't understand it all. I don't want to touch on it too much. But there's a comment here, Dave Weston, because I don't understand it. I generally don't understand it because I'm not Scouse, but I've always supported Everton. And he's put, how can Scousers get behind England when you've got rival fans singing these songs about Hillsborough disaster? And obviously he's got about this. That.
I'll tell you how you can get behind them, Dave. I'll tell you how you can get behind them.
England's nothing to do with that, is it?
None of those players were even alive when Maggie Thatcher was around, and none of those players have sang Hillsborough songs. None of those players give an absolute monkey's toss about like Maggie Thatcher or any of that nonsense. And like half of them are like Northerners anyway. I mean, like listen to them talk. They're not Tories, most of them. You know what I mean? So it's like this idea of trying to make it about politics is like Maggie was the 80s. That's like 40 odd years ago. Hillsborough was in the 80s as well, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was like 89.
Fans coming and singing about the Hillsborough, but I don't think that's nothing to do with England. That's just fans being dickheads from other teams, isn't it? I don't think that's nothing. Like obviously, Hillsborough thing. I always tweet about the Hillsborough thing. I think it's really
it's wrong. Wrong. You know, it's one of those where they were doing monkey chants at Saka because he missed a penalty. What's that got to do with politics? It's nothing to do with politics. It's just shithouse behaviour from scummy people. It's got nothing to do with the players themselves. If you look at like most of these players are nice fellas. Like you look at what Rashford's done for his community. And like getting all the school dinners and all that kind of stuff. How can I not back that? Like, I'm proud for him to represent my country because he's like the best of us, not the worst of us. The worst of us are the people who hold a bitterness about something that, like, that's a separate issue. That was the police and the government hiding information, all the Hillsborough stuff. That was the police like hiding information and lying, and it was the government lying and covering shit up. That's nothing to do with the football players. It's nothing to do with them. So I can support England because I can support those players because those players like have made me proud when I've watched them. Like they got to the semi-final of the World Cup last time, they got to the final last time and just ran out of legs and lost on penalties. But they did their best. You know, why can't you just back that?
Yeah, it is. It's a big debate, and like I say, I don't understand it. And I just read the comments, and Dave's he commented again, and he just said it's not about the players, it's about the fans. And I get that there's a clash of fans, and if you don't want to be with the fans that have like don't want to be associated with those fans that have been like that towards the Hillsborough disaster. You don't want to be with them, but you can't go and say every England fan.
I've been to watch Everton games, and this is being honest. I've been to be Everton games where Lee Ty got racist abuse, where the black players of Everton have got racist abuse. So he without sin cast the first stone, you know what I mean? As if our fans are somehow better than because we don't chant about that. We chant about plenty of other stuff that, you know, we're just as bad. So don't pretend otherwise. Our shit stinks just as bad as all of theirs. So we might not make chants about certain things, but we make chants about other things when it suits us. So, like, arseholes are arseholes. Nice people are nice people. Football is football.
Yeah, I've always watched England, and I'm not massively hyped for them, but I would like to see them win something. I was saying to Ryan, we've got about another 10, 12 minutes to hit the hour point. We'll end it with, what did you think of, like, obviously Pickford's played and he's been really good, as he freaking always is. What did you think of Onana and Garnagay, their performances?
They need a good rest and some practice. I wasn't particularly impressed with either of them. I was really impressed with that Mohamed Kudus. Obviously, you know, it's still unlikely to get him. Yeah, it does. Yeah,
right, because he's going to be worth about 100 million now. We nearly got him so close, like Diaz.
It's me really. Go on.
I was just going to say, Jeff, it's made me like step back a little bit because I've been massively these new players that we got. I got massively carried away with these players like Cody Tarkowski. I'm like, we've got the best centre backs ever, and then Garnagay and Garner coming in and Onana. I was like, oh, we've got the best centre midfielder ever. But then watching them in the World Cup, they're not where they need to be. Maybe they will be that, but they all need time. They all do need time, and I think for me, I'm starting to realise where we're at because I've been like, Onana's this, that, and the other, and then I watched him for Belgium. And he's still got so much to learn. He's so raw. Yeah. And he is going to be what he needs to be, Jeff. But at his age 21, he's got time on his hands and we haven't got time on our hand. We could go down if they don't perform. So
I think that we are in a relegation battle this year. No doubts about it. I hope that we've managed to use the opportunity. I think that the one positive of the World Cup from an Everton point of view is having the time to get some fitness and some teamwork into these players because we can't afford to have a bad start to the second half of the season. We can't. We need to get ideally a win on Boxing Day would be great because obviously we're probably going to lose to Man City. But, you know, we're going to be in a battle this year. And I said it before to when we've had our little rows on, I've said that these players they're not good enough. They're not. To get where we want to go. Like half our team are squad players. Then they're not the required level. And we need some additions in January. And I don't know whether we're going to have the money to buy the players that we need. But we desperately need them.
I've seen Kevin, your number one fan, say it's a bit negative tonight. I'm not being negative. I'm just like,
hey, okay. How you doing, mate?
I am still positive. But what I think, Jeff, is I think when you watch teams like Japan in the World Cup, where that even players you don't know, they all play well. I think Everton have got to go back to basic and just get the basic stuff right, because they're not shit players. They just they just need to. Lampard needs to just do what they're capable of. So he's probably just got to get Onana and Garnagay both to sit together, not like because a lot often you'll see Onana push up and Garnagay sitting there isolated, and we've just got one player there. I'd like to see them two playing front of the defence together.
I tell you what, I want to see more than anything else, and I don't care about his age. I want to see Tom Cannon starting games because he's better than any of our strikers. I don't care. He is. He should be in games. He literally just, every time I see him, he's just scoring goals. And I know it's under 21 levels or whatever. I don't care. If you know where the onion bag is, you know where the onion bag is. It's always been that way.
Got Sims hanging. Sims is doing very well for Sunderland as well. Yeah. 5 goals.
But I've got a feeling that we're just going to loan Cannon out in January.
Yeah, we will. But I do want to see. I said this to Ryan earlier on, Jeff. I want to see us slam 50, 60 million down on a striker if we've got it. I know that's crazy, but I generally think you can't. We went and brought Mupai for 50 million. You can't bit and bob at a striker. You've got to do what we did with Lukaku and go out and get a very, very good striker. Because when we used to have Lukaku, I used to feel good because we had a good striker. And if we can get a striker, do you know when you go and play a team and you need to beat them? If you've got a good striker, you feel like you can do it. And I feel.
Do you know what I've seen at this World Cup who I really like, and I don't know what club he's at, so I don't know how possible it is. That Canadian lad.
I know what you mean. Big lad, isn't he?
Big, powerful striker, and he scored goals. And
this is a player I want, and someone said it on my Twitter. And I'll tell you something. I'd love this player.
Go on.
Endo from Japan.
Endo of Japan. Yeah.
He's good. He's a proper baller. He is. He's really, really good, and he's got a good shot on him as well. Kamada, I'm seeing a lot of people say they want Kamada.
Yeah, the other one was the one who was. I know they got walloped the other night, but the lad who's the striker for Switzerland as well.
I can't remember. I know you. I think I know you. I know who you mean though. There's another one. You know, the worst thing is someone. I don't know if you've seen it, Jeff. Someone tweeted that there was an article about us. Do you know the Portugal striker that scored a hat trick?
Yeah.
About a couple of months ago, it said we was looking at him. And the price tag on him's gone up absolutely loads now. Now he's scored an hat trick. But we was looking at him.
Yeah. I know. We're always late to the party in terms of that stuff. And it's just, it annoys the bloody life out of me. But you knew this was going to happen anyway, because it was like, the World Cup's always a bad market because prices always go up anyway after the World Cup, because it's like if you do well at a World Cup, then everyone's sniffing. It's just because it's like, I mean, it's a World Cup, but for most of the players, it's a marketing opportunity to show themselves, to put themselves on a stage and put themselves in a position to get a big move somewhere. So you'll see like a lot of I don't know who they play for currently, but I would imagine that quite a lot of the Moroccan team are going to be looking at moves because their defense is awesome. Their keepers played a fantastic games. To be fair, I mean, they don't offer a lot going forward generally, but like their defense and goalkeeper, they're going to be getting moves. You look at Japan, you look at Korea.
I think this is where
fucking players about, isn't there?
Do you know where Ryan said he wants Farewell to do better? Which I agree. He started the window amazing, but at the end of the window, he cut to go with Mupay and go with McNeil. This is where I agree with Ryan on that part, because I feel like at the end of the window, we just went with players we thought could do well in the Premier League, where I want Everton to go outside of the Premier League. You've seen all these players that you're talking about, Jeff. There's good players out there, but it seems that we didn't look for them, because there was a lot of good players out there that we could have gone for.
Yeah, and I think that, again, that because we're such a shit-run football club, we don't know the full circumstances of the finances. And so, like the McNeil move, I don't really have a problem, because like people say, we blew 20 million on McNeil. We didn't. We spent 5, and then we'll spend 5 next year and the year after. And realistically, you can still get 10 or 12 million back for him, even if he's not a success. So it's not a great punt. Mupay, again, I think people talking about, we've spent this, that, and the other. We spent 11, and I think we only spent 9 up front.
He's one that does frustrate me a little bit, is because I feel like we could have done better with the 11 million.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's like, but it's one of those where once we've got more players, these players turn into good squad players. That's what I was talking about before, is these players on the bench, that makes us all right, because then you're talking about other players being removed from the squad, like who's the divvy that fucking Martinez, but that the Spanish twat bought, is the striker who's rubbish, Cartos.
Rondon, you've got on you, and then
right. So then you move out players like Rondon, and then like Mupay can have a place on the bench because he can come on and work defenders and be energetic and whatever. And it's like, I don't mind them as a squad player, but to be a successful Premier League team, you need better upfront quality. I still think Gray is a bench player for me. I still think.
I think one. I honestly feel, I'm not going to be greedy, because I'd say 2 wingers and a striker, but I think one winger that's good and a good striker could make a big difference, because I've watched a lot of this World Cup, and when you've got a good striker, everything clicks behind it, and I do feel we're a good striker away from being a lot better. I just think we need a good striker. I really do think we need a good striker. We can't rely on Calvert-Lewin now.
Sorry. Driving glasses, I can't see these comments. He's not shite though. This is the thing, is I understand that, like, everyone has opinions, and it's fair enough. But you get stuff like this, and it's like, he's shite, and it's like, is he though? He's not. He isn't shite, because
he's not as good as you want.
He's played in the Premier League for several years, and he held down a first team spot, and he got picked every week. You can't be a Premier League player who plays every game for 3-4 years and be shite. It just doesn't work that way. If you're shite, you don't play, because the Premier League is the toughest league in the world. And so if you're holding down a starting place at a Premier League side, even a poor Premier League side, you're a good player. They'd run rings round you. I guarantee you, Jack, he is a good player. He's not great. He's not great.
Up to the standard that we need, is he? That's the thing. He's not Richarlison.
That's the
he's
thing.
Not Richarlison, that's the thing. He's come in Richarlison's position, and Richarlison could score goals. And Richarlison was very dangerous, and McNeil's not that. And
no. But then Everton aren't that, and that's the whole problem. Is that if you put someone like a McNeil in a functioning, positive, stylish Everton side, he'd probably do all right. Like a lot of players that, if you put them in a good side, like when United used to sign players, right? Well, United have got like a good squad all around. So then you could bring someone in and drop them into a team. And because everyone else was good, they would immediately look good, because they're in that system and that team, and they're playing that level of football. And so they tick on, and over time they lift confidence, and then they start being a good regular player. But we would say they were shy, but they weren't, because they were playing at Man United regularly. People like who's the ones that we've had at Everton? Phil Neville.
McNeil is not like Jeff. No man.
No, but like a Phil Neville.
McNeil is not liked.
Sorry?
McNeil is not liked. Someone was like, no.
No, I know he's not liked, but like, hasn't he scored 3 goals for us?
I don't like you say. I think McNeil's as good as we want and probably need, but I think Everton not performing well as a team. Everton not performing well as a team is making a lot of players not stand out. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes, that's what I mean. Is like, it's one of those situations where the way we're playing, it doesn't matter who you bring in. If like, they're going to look rubbish because we play rubbish, but if we play well, we look good. So, like, it's just a blanket comment that annoys me. Is like he's shite. He isn't shite. He isn't shite.
Sunday shit.
Right? I'm not saying he's Ronaldo, because he's not Ronaldo. But to say any of these players are shite, it's just a throwaway comment because of frustration. But it just isn't a fact, because they're a professional footballer that are played regularly at like a high level. That means they're not shite. Like, de facto, it means they're not shite. You might not like them. You might not rate them personally, but they ain't shite, because if they were shite, they wouldn't have like 100 Premier League games under their belt. That's just a fact. It's just the way
the standard that the Premier League is now. McNeil is probably one of the weakest wingers compared to the standard. Like, even
but we are weak as well.
In a relegation battle, Jeff. Like, you look at Nottingham Forest, they went and brought frigging loads of players. The standard of the Premier League now, you've got to be the dog's bollocks on your wingers, haven't you? You've got to be really good. And like you said, Tomori Gray, probably he's 50-50, isn't he?
But that's the thing is, all of our players are like at the lower end of the spectrum. That's
why I get what Jack McFay is saying, because
I understand what he's saying as well, and I'm not saying.
I know what you're saying, Jeff. He's not.
I'm not saying that he's amazing, and like, would I have signed him? No, I wouldn't have signed him. Do I want any of our literally? There's probably about 4 or 5 players at Everton that I would actually keep, me personally, and I would throw the rest of them in the Mersey, like, happily, because, like, we're just a crap football team, aren't we?
We just need to. I will go back to it because we're finishing now. But this is one thing where I say that Kenwright, I will go back to him, because if we was run better, this financial situation, we probably wouldn't have been in it, because the new frigging people on the board wouldn't have let Moshiri put us in the mess that we're in financially. Let's face it. You can't.
Another one, the ass.
Yeah.
You
can't, like, it's good that we're starting to do things better now, Jeff, but it makes you think, why wasn't we doing all this when Moshiri come in? Do you know what I mean? Like, we're starting to get...
and that's the whole problem is, and that's the whole problem that goes back to the club, and that's where I can't stand Kenwright. I can't stand the guy, and like, I just want to slap him when I see him, because his face he's just got one of those faces that you just want to hit. Because he talks about the good times and the good times and blah blah, and it's like, no, we haven't had good times. We've been a bang average at best football side for like most of the last like 30 years, and we've had a couple of days out in the sun. That's it. That's literally what we've had, is a few days out in the sun. We're poorly run. boys' club for sycophants and idiots, and like I just want us to get rid of all of them and start again and be professionally run like a proper fucking football club.
We're paying for that because when Moshiri and Kenwright come in, they acted like complete clowns, and they wasted money. Like all of us being good was in their
45 million for Mr. Pedo, like
for Sigurdsson, and
ridiculous.
And we brought all players when there was finishing, and Tujan, and then now Jeff, like we could have had Kudos now, but we missed out on it because they fucked up a bit back, and we could have had Diaz that Liverpool had. The deal was nearly done with Rodriguez, but we didn't. It didn't happen because they fucked up.
Haaland for nothing.
That's what I'm saying. So for me, it's frustrating now that we're in a financial mess where we can't buy players like other teams can when we've got a good rich owner, just because the club wasn't run.
And this goes back to the original point of what Vigneault was talking about at the start. Like I understand the reason for writing letters, and like more power to their elbow. Go and write letters. Sound like protest. Do whatever, and it's fine. It won't do anything. That's the only thing that to me is like it's literally a bunch of people who don't have any say or any voice or like
one thing I will say though,
any power. Like
one thing I will say, and I said it earlier on though, I didn't think that it would go as big as it did. A lot of big Twitter accounts have done a story on it, and probably Moshiri will see it. I do think that Moshiri probably will see it. I get what you're saying. I don't think anything's going to be done until we sell the club. I don't think Kenwright's going to be gone until we sell the club.
No, absolutely not.
But I think when we do sell the club, I'm hoping that when we sell the club, the new owners that come in won't want Kenwright.
Let's be honest. For the most part now, Kenwright is basically a flag waver. He doesn't really do a lot anymore because he's old and ill, and like he's had a little bit of a hand in some of the negotiations, but he's not really day to day running the football club. That's what Baxendale is doing, and obviously there has been some structural changes in terms of like there have been some changes in terms of like they're trying to get better deals for the club and stuff like that, and again you can't argue with the stadium. Like I just look at it and it's just like it gives me goosebumps just seeing it, like the videos of it. It's amazing. But I still worry that we'll be playing championship football in it. That's what concerns me. On the pitch is what matters.
It's like, do you know, in a workplace, if you've got two workers in a workplace that can keep the business open for a day, say a shop, you've got two workers that can do a day's trade and just get by and make the day's trade happen. But then you can get two bosses that come in, run the shop and know absolutely everything, and they'll smash it. And that's the thing with Kenwright and Denise. They know how to just run the club, but we need people to come in that are good at the job, Jeff, that can smash it. Because we're paying people to smash it on the board. We need people on the board that are going to offer something. And I don't think Kenwright or Denise offer that much, to be fair. I really don't.
No, and this is the thing is, but like ultimately, Moshiri makes the decisions, and he keeps backing them. Like he keeps publicly backing them, even when all the complaints have come in. When we've had, 100 people marching around the ground and putting a few flags around the stadium or whatever it is that we've done that like passes for a protest. Like it's not causing Moshiri to lose any sleep. It really isn't, because he still makes his decisions based on what he thinks. And I just don't like. If we're gonna do a protest, like some guy who lives in New York, who's like a multimillionaire himself, writing a letter about finance, just like what has that got to do with anything? He doesn't even live there in the city, so he doesn't attend any of these protests. He's not marching. He lives in a like New York penthouse, and he's literally a multi-millionaire businessman. So, like, do I feel any kind of bond with him writing letters about like the club's finance? No, I don't, because it's just like, if anyone's in a position to actually physically do something about it, go and get all your Wall Street mates together to put together a deal to buy the club. Like, that's, if you're in that kind of a position, which he is. I've got no problem with the Esk at all personally. Like, he's a nice fella and whatever, and he's a smart cookie. I know he is. But if we've got a problem with our club and our board and our shitty owners and all that kind of stuff, what we need is someone to come and buy the club. Yeah, that to me is logical sense. We need someone to come and buy the club. Now, how do we go about getting somebody to buy a club? Well, what we need is someone who's like a rich Wall Street person with connections all over the place, literally all over the place, to put together a consortium to buy the football club. That's what the Esk is. He's literally a Wall Street banker with millions, with literally connections all through the finance industry. Put together something and buy the club. Like, if that's the problem, like, writing a letter.
I agree.
Writing a letter is like, what?
I agree with them that things need to change and it shouldn't go on left. But I think the thing is, why this stadium's being built, you wouldn't want to do anything that's going to hinder the stadium being built and stuff like that. So I just think when the stadium is done, Jeff, I really do think this. When the stadium's done, it's going to look that good that loads of people are going to be interested in it. Moshiri, when it's done, is going to sell up. 100% for me. As soon as the stadium's built, Moshiri will sell up. And then when we get a new owner, he's not going to keep Bill Kenwright. So everything should take care of itself. That's what I'm thinking in my head. I do think it's going to take care of itself. But
no problems, Jack. Jack's having a fun time. I don't know. He just said thanks for the laugh, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. It's because you hit on the S. Telling the S to buy the club.
Yeah.
Well, Jeff, I'm going to lock this.
Yeah, it's time, innit?
Yeah, to be fair, I know we've gone on for an hour and 15, but we haven't been on for a while, and we thought we'd just keep up to date with you and have a little chat.
Come on, England. Come on, England.
Come on, England. Win the World Cup. And then Everton.
Please.
And then Everton.
Are you going, by the way, Boxing Day?
No, I can't because it's far.
Oh, gutted.
It's because Christmas is expensive for me with kids, and then no.
So,
I want to.
I had a feeling.
I've said to Ryan to change the tickets to. I'm going to go to the Man City one with my kids and stuff. The last game of the season.
Yeah.
Do you know the last game of the season?
Sorry.
Last game of the season, we got Man City, I think.
Oh, in May.
Yeah, my birthday.
Oh, right.
So I'm going to try.
Oh, nice one.
I think it's on my birthday, so I'm going to try and go to that Man City on my birthday.
Oh my God! I hope that's not like we have to win to stay up kind of a game, because that would be like.
Well, it could be that we stop Man City from winning the league and make.
That's a traumatic risk. Oh God, I hope we're safe well before then, mate.
No, to be fair, Jeff, honestly, I do think that this World Cup. I know you always a lot say I'm delusional, but I do think this World Cup come at a perfect time for us. And players like Cody being at the World Cup and itching to play and wanting to play is going to come back and be so hungry to play for Everton. Tarkowski not getting called up is going to be like wanting to show that he could have been at the World Cup. And then you've got
Pickford might be out the door.
Pickford's going to be hopefully wins the World Cup and everyone's going to love him. And then all the other players, I just feel like they might come back better, Jeff. Cody did say that last game, Cody said that it's not good enough and it's disgusting and they need to check, things need to change. So hopefully it does change, Jeff. Do you know what I mean? Hopefully it changes and we get a better second half of the season.
Like I say, I just...
And me and you don't argue on the channel and we can just be happy and win every game.
Yeah, that would be lovely.
But I hope, thank you. I hope.
So yeah, come on England, and I shall see you next time. And thanks everyone for joining. For us, see
you later. Up the fucking top as we missed you.
Yeah, and you've got.